Hey everybody, another gorgeous Sunday afternoon. Had a nice church service. Everybody was still talking about how great the picnic was yesterday. Fantastic, beautiful day. Everybody had a good time. And just very thankful for it. You know, although our Sunday school lesson was talking about how people divide themselves, and I didn't speak up a lot in this lesson because I know how I get in those discussions. Um, because I really don't like how society wants to separate everybody from each other in every way possible. You know, we need to be working together, not focusing on differences. We need to work together for the goals that are similar. Um, People really need to get their head out of the sand. That's putting it the nice way. Um, and pay it. Look a little closer to what's going on around you. Because if you don't take everything for surface level, you will see that a lot of things are being orchestrated. Like there's no denying that it's a lot of stuff is happening on purpose to try and lead people to a certain point. It's all pattern recognition. It's you know easy to follow if you know what to look for. Anyway, before I get off on that tangent, um, it was good service. As always, pastor's been on this kick uh, about all things are possible with God. And it's a good reminder. I like that he's on that, with us. Every Sunday he'll say, some things, and then he'll say all things, and he'll say most things, no, all things. And that's the repetition, and that's what's good. Now, I love that he does that because it keeps you in the right mindset. Because if you don't get those regular reminders, you can let your faith slide. And that's not a good place to be. So yeah, it was a really good message today, and I really appreciate, well, everything really. Everybody there is just fantastic, you know. But then I'm walking on the way home, and I stopped to see an associate of mine who lives, between. I walk, and there was a interaction there, and I didn't care for it. We were trying to have a discussion about the way the world is now and the cost of everything and so on and so forth. And we got to a point in the conversation where he was going, huh, what, and I don't like to repeat myself, so I said, hey man, listen, I said, conversation isn't really going far. I'd like to go home and get in something a little comfier and grab something to eat. And I started to walk away like normal, like okay. He starts chasing after me and getting loud. Like, really? And it goes back to show, that speech. You really got to watch that speech in The Matrix about people wanting to, so inured with the system that they will go nuts to defend it. Like that right there was like going a step above and beyond, what it needed to be. It was civil discourse until, I tried to end it peacefully. And that says a lot about, society and people with certain mindsets. So I'm like divided right now. I got people like, like that, my old friends, people I don't associate with anymore, that are, make me lose my faith in humanity because of what people are letting themselves turn into to survive in a world that we just accept too much that we shouldn't accept. And nobody seems to care. But then on the flip side of that, I'm around people that are raising my spirit, helping with my faith, being positive examples in my life. So I'm really on the fence of where I stand right now. You know, part of me does want to keep faith, that humanity can get better. And, again, we'll get our heads out of the sand and come together and get things right. But I don't like to doubt, but unfortunately, I also, it puts me in a really awkward position because I also believe in faith and reality. And the reality is it impossible? No, but it's very unlikely. Not impossible, but it's improbable. Only because the numbers that we would need to do, this here, do the work, and come together to work united, there's not enough people in the world that are interested enough to do it. And you can't force somebody to do it. You can't. You can have all these re-education camps you want, and you still can't make somebody. They might let themselves slip into insanity before they'll take the programming. That is a distinct possibility. That's a choice I would make, honestly. And again, that's that principle topic talking. Got to stand for something. If you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. That is absolutely 100% true. There has to be lines in the sand that you will not cross. Right? For whatever reason. And a lot of people have lost sight of that. Nobody really has that anymore. Because everybody will cross lines for if they have a proper excuse. If they think they'll get away with it. And it just drives me nuts. I don't understand the majority of humanity. I don't get it. Don't get me wrong, I understand it. I just don't know why people choose the way they do when they could just as easily choose for it to be better. Like, seriously, it's got to start somewhere. Starts with us. Starts individually. First, you got to go inside and do the work on yourself. You got to get yourself right before you can interact with others effectively. Also, like that conversation, watch out for manipulation tactics, right? My ex pulled this, he pulled this in this conversation. If people want to control the conversation, they'll do that. They'll play dumb. They'll have you repeating yourself, over explaining. Walk away. That's my example of what I did this morning. Like, when I saw the repetition, like it was a conversation he didn't want to hear, didn't want to be part of, I excused myself from it. But again, that was the result. It almost turned to violence. Like, and it's wild because somebody that up till now I got along with fine. But again, certain topics, they'll bring the devil out of people. It really will. A lot of people just don't want to think things through. They want to stop thinking about things at surface level. Like, they don't have the I don't even care about being insulting. It's like they don't have the brain power to go any deeper. I used to watch my tongue because I don't want to be insulting, but maybe if I get insulting to enough of you identify with the way I'm talking, maybe someone will start listening and, changing it. It's not about your intelligence. It's not. Anyone can do it. It's the work you put into it. You can make yourself smarter. And it's not by memorizing facts. No. It's by exercising your brain. It's a muscle. Right? Just like, that's a muscle. Well, not on me, but on other people. But no, seriously, you have to exercise it. You have to use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's the same for every skill or you go to the gym, you work out your body muscles. Guess what? You quit going to the gym for a couple years, you're going to start losing that muscle mass because you're not maintaining it. Same way with the brain. But too many people stop at that surface level thinking. Nobody takes it deeper. Excuse me. I'm still tired from yesterday. That was the other running joke in church today. That everybody, they were surprised everybody showed up today because we were all so tired yesterday. Because it was such a beautiful day. We all had such a good time. And there's still moments like that in the world. So that's what keeps me from fully losing my faith. But you also have to recognize that things like that are more and more fleeting in the world we live in. And I gotta admit, that makes me a little nervous, Not fearful. Be mindful, not fearful. But that's the thing, you gotta be mindful of it. You gotta be aware of it. That's what mindful is. And it's like society or the world or however you want to look at it is just getting further and further in this wrong direction, and nobody's trying to correct course. We as humanity, as a species, could be a lot better off than we are right now. We have so many things to our advantage, yet we don't utilize it properly. Nobody gets that sense of community anymore. Like I was trying to explain in that conversation, right? No one person can do everything that they want to do to have a comfortable life, right? Even look at the homesteading videos. You got to pick and choose. There's some things you got to learn to live without because you don't have the ability or the manpower or the hours in a day to get things done. There's certain sacrifices you got to make, right? That's what happens when you live individualistically. When you live as a community, that is not the case. As a real community, as a tight-knit community, you can trust others and delegate and be like, okay, you folks take care of that part, those folks take care of that part, and I'll take care of this part. And then when we all come together, everybody has what they want at the end of the day. And I know that sounds like an oversimplification, but it's really not. Like, I'm dead serious when I say keep it super simple. You got to kiss life. Keep it super simple. Yes, it really is that simple. And the more that people start to look at it that way, like how simple it really is, the further we're going to get. But everybody's used to, they got to complicate it. There's got to be an excuse for everything. There's an excuse or an exception for every rule there is. No. What's the point of having them? Why do we follow any of them if not all of them apply to everybody? Somebody want to answer me that? I don't think anybody has an answer for that. That's the society we've been tricked into accepting. If you got the right money, the right status, laws don't apply to you. And let's face it, we've all witnessed that enough in the world to know that's true. And that's everywhere you go. Innocent until proven guilty, my ass. That might be what they say, but that's one of those, words not matching actions is manipulation. Yeah, that's society right now. And that's truth. And people are so afraid to face the truth that they deny it. They let it get worse and worse because I guess, that's the only thing I can come up with. They're afraid of the ramifications if they accept that as the truth. Like, hey, this is really what's going on. But we're only getting worse and worse and deeper into it the more we ignore it and let it go. So it really doesn't make sense to me. I don't get people. I don't. You know, this life is a gift. You know, it's very special. It's even sacred. And we should really start treating it that way. We should be more willing to fight for the right things in life instead of trudging down this path of self-destruction and just going along with it because, oh, that's the way it is. Yeah, that's the way it is now, but it doesn't have to be. It can change. We can change it, but we got to get our act together. Again, keep it super simple. It is that simple. You get enough numbers together, and I don't care what you want to happen, it'll happen. In one way or another. Let's put it that way. Well, excuse me, the way you want it to happen, but it can happen regardless. You get enough minds together, you know. There might not be a solution for a specific problem if you leave it to a limited set of people. You get more eyes looking at it, and people that have different life experiences or different thoughts and ideas, people whose brain works differently. I'm very good at out-of-the-box thinking. You know, you get a think tank together, and somebody will find the solution. There are over 8 billion people on this planet. Right? If we really, genuinely put our heads together, we can shape this world any way we want. But everybody's afraid to do that. Why is that? Why are we afraid to get along? Why are we afraid of people that have messages of peace and unity? I don't have answers for that. Well, not answers that I want to accept anyway. I don't think it's human nature. I think it's taught. Because I can see it. Oh, excuse me again. In certain areas. When it's taught. Like I've learned, especially in movies and TV, now I pick up on it like that. Because I've gotten to, that's why I quit doing it. Quit watching a lot of stuff that I used to. Because I caught on. Just be mindful of what's going on around you and know when to stand up for a principle, but also know when it's futile and when to walk away. And that's my message for today. Use that discernment. We each got to do our part. The same thing, with being a Christian. You got to go spread the gospel. Same thing in this case. The gospel's message is love one another. We can't even like one another right now, let alone love. We can't even pretend to get along. And that's some dire circumstances. I really hope that chills at least a handful of other people like it does me. The fact to realize that we've gotten to that point. And it's still not too late to correct. It may be soon. I don't know, but anywho, as usual, I go over time. But just please think it over. Do not be afraid to question deeper. Figure things out. Make it make sense, right? That's a great saying, make it make sense. If something happens, if a rule is put in place or something like that, and it doesn't make sense to you, figure it out. Find a way to make it make sense. That's the best advice I can give. Anyway, keep taking care of yourself. Try and help take care of each other. I'll see you in the next one.